for me, this is one of the best responses from Eddie Hearn, and he's getting a little personal. And I don't mind it because the stuff that Oscar De La Hoya has been saying about Eddie Hearn, I think it's fair game for Hearn to come back and have a little dig about Oscar's personal life. And to be specific, Eddie Hearn said, "Don't do drugs, kids," when responding to what Oscar De La Hoya recently said about him basically being a poor matchmaker and allowing him to fight Bivol when he should have taken him in a different direction. So I'm going to quote Eddie Hearn here. He said, in fact, no, that's a Oscar De La Hoya quote there. Where's Eddie Hearn's response? Yeah, he says here, "To think that Canelo Alvarez will let me make the decisions on his career is a bit naive of Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya says a lot, but you know, I mean, the greatest sort of lesson you can learn from those sort of comments is don't do drugs, kids." That's the basis of those comments. He goes on to say, "Oscar De La Hoya was a tremendous boxer. He definitely knows more about boxing than me, but I don't have any say as to who Canelo Alvarez will fight. Him and his trainer and manager Eddie Reynoso choose the fights. He was a big favorite against Dimitri Bivol and got beat. That's boxing. What do you want? A champion not to take any tough tests? We should be applauding Canelo Alvarez for wanting to continually test himself outside of his comfort zone." Yeah, amen to that. He tried, he failed, but that's the price of attempting to be great, is you're going to fail sometimes. It's okay. Some people look at this boxing game as being all about perfect management. Even the fans are like this these days. You know, they seem to have inherited the Mayweather mindset, which certainly is very much evident in Leonard Ellaby. Of course, he's part of Team Mayweather, whereby it's all about preserving the unbeaten record and losing is the end of the world, or all this kind of mentality, you know? Whereas the old school mentality is like, hey, if you're a great fighter, you're going to push the envelope. You're going to try and strive to be the best version of yourself as a fighter you can possibly be, to push your talent to the absolute limit. And in doing so, you might lose. You might take a few L's along the way, but that's okay. That doesn't mean you're not a great fighter, because if you're out there fighting everybody, it's in most cases inevitable that you're going to lose. You know, so I think that Canelo Alvarez should be applauded, as Eddie Hearn said, for even taking the Dimitri Bivol fight. Now, as far as the stuff Eddie Hearn said about don't do drugs, we know what that's referring to. In other interviews, Eddie Hearn said, "I hope Oscar De La Hoya gets help." Yeah. Does Oscar De La Hoya really want help? That's the thing. Because if you've ever been around people that have issues with substances, alcohol, whatever, in many cases, they don't want help. They actually like doing what they're doing for whatever reason they're doing it. And therefore, trying to help them is an exercise in futility. On some level, they enjoy doing what they're doing. Maybe they just enjoy the feeling. You can say they're trying to mask something, or they're trying to self-medicate or drown out their demons, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, but they like the feeling. So, for example, I don't particularly like the feeling of being drunk. And therefore, I could never be an alcoholic. Because how can you be an alcoholic if you don't like the feeling of being drunk? You see, with De La Hoya and with many other people that have substance abuse problems, they like the feeling. You see it? And so they're kind of almost addicted to the feeling. How are you going to get them to not like the feeling? How are you going to get them to not be addicted to the feeling? And some people would say, well, it's when they get side effects and symptoms and, you know, negative health consequences, which outweigh, you know, the negatives start outweighing the positives. Perhaps Oscar De La Hoya hasn't got there yet. I don't know. But as I say, in terms of Eddie Hearn having a little dig saying, don't do drugs, kids, I think it's fair enough, because De La Hoya is a bit loose with the mouth. Some of the stuff that he says. He doesn't appear to be very sensitive in terms of attacking other people, and therefore he can't expect people to be sensitive when it comes to retaliating at him. It is what it is, you know. If you are throwing stones in a glass house, well, it's going to shatter, isn't it? So that's what's happening with Oscar De La Hoya. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be some sensitive souls out there who say, oh no, Eddie Hearn shouldn't have done that and he shouldn't be getting bet. Look, you can only poke a bear for so long before it lashes out, right? And that's what Oscar's been doing with Eddie Hearn. He's been saying stuff. To Eddie Hearn's credit, when he first entered the US market, yeah, he was talking about how great he was as a promoter, but he wasn't really slagging off the other promoters. It wasn't until they started slagging him off, like Bob Arum was on stage trying to punk Eddie Hearn to his face. You know, obviously we know that PBC don't like doing business with him these days. Of course, Leonard Ellerby's been coming at Eddie Hearn. And Oscar De La Hoya has been taking shots at Hearn for a long time. And of course, it must burn De La Hoya that Canelo left him and went to Eddie. De La Hoya would probably feel better about it if Canelo had gone to Bob Arum or Canelo had gone to PBC, because at least then they wouldn't be on the same network. But no, Canelo left De La Hoya to be with a guy on the very same network that De La Hoya's on. So that probably burns him more than anything. So when he goes to sleep at night thinking about Canelo, he's also thinking about Eddie Hearn. You know, like a jilted lover, like someone whose girlfriend ran off with another guy. He's tossing and turning in bed every night, thinking about the pair of them, you know, that kind of thing. That's how De La Hoya is behaving these days. And I don't think he really cares about Canelo on a personal level, of course. It's just business. But, well, from a business perspective, his company was all about Canelo. His company revolved around Canelo. That's all they really were. I mean, people were talking about this long before Canelo left. They were saying that it's dangerous for De La Hoya to have his whole business revolve around one fighter. Because if that fighter loses or retires or moves on to another promoter, you're up, you know what's creek without a paddle. So, and that's kind of what has happened with De La Hoya, although he's just signed a new contract with DAZN. Multi-fight, multi-year deal, I think, with DAZN. There was some talk of De La Hoya going elsewhere, maybe doing a deal with, I think, was it Showtime or something? One of the other networks. But that hasn't come to fruition. He's staying on DAZN. And he has got who? Jaime Munguia, Virgil Ortiz. Who else has he got? Munguia, Ortiz. Zerdo Ramirez has gone elsewhere, hasn't he? Isn't it Zerdo Ramirez with Top Rank now? I don't think he's with De La Hoya anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. I seem to remember him going elsewhere. So yeah, that's it for. Oh, hang on. No, was it the other way around? Zerdo Ramirez was with Top Rank, and then he joined De La Hoya. Is that the way around it went? If Zerdo Ramirez's most recent fight was with De La Hoya, it would have been on DAZN, right? And I haven't seen that fight. I need to go and watch it if it's on DAZN. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below while I go figure out whether Zerdo Ramirez is actually still with Oscar De La Hoya Golden Boy. And if so, I'm going to go watch his most recent fight on DAZN now. Until next time, peace.